class, and then that data from that survey gave us this spreadsheet full of your replies. You were basically rating your satisfaction of a number of things. And then what I wanted you to do was calculate the average, the median, the mode, the min, the max, etc. for each of those items. If you don't still have that spreadsheet, you can actually click here, and that will bring you to this spreadsheet, and then you can, from that spreadsheet, you need to actually download as an open document format. That will allow it to open up in LibreOffice. So now that we have our data in LibreOffice, what I'm going to do is over in column A, I'm going to put down all the things that I want to calculate. So I wanted the average, the median, the mode. Let's see, let's jump back there and look at the other things that we needed to get. The min, the max, the number, or we'll just go like this, tens. We needed the number of 1 to 3. We needed the number of responses that were 7 to 10. And then lastly, the ones that were left, the 4 to 6. Now normally when you're calculating things without the spreadsheet, you would simply add up all of these numbers and divide by the number of responses. But fortunately, in a spreadsheet, if we want to calculate the average, all we have to do is type in equals. Every time we type in a function, we start with the words equals, and there's a function conveniently called average. And inside the average, so you type in equals average, put a parenthesis, and you'll see what you need in there is a whole bunch of numbers, and you can actually just click and choose your numbers. I hit enter, and the average rating was 6.48. Now, I'm lazy. I don't really want to have to enter the same thing, I'm going to shrink this a little bit, for all of those items. That would take me like a minute, and I don't like to waste a minute. So the nice thing about spreadsheets is they're smart enough to figure out, hey, if this is the average of column B, if I click that bottom right corner where I get that kind of black plus sign and drag it over, it figured out, hey, this one is going to do the average of column C. And I can drag that all the way over, and now I've done the average for all of them. The next thing I want to do is the median, and if the function for average is average, my guess is you can figure out that the function for median is median. And again, what it's going to do here is if you were doing this yourself, you would take all of those numbers and you would line them up from smallest to greatest, and then you would find the one that's in the middle. Well, we don't have to waste our time with that. The computer can do it for us. So I just typed in equals median, parenthesis, and then I chose the numbers that I wanted to find the median of. And what do you know? The median is 8. The mode, same thing. Again, you would, if you were doing it by yourself, you'd see which one comes up the most common, and you would count how many each number came up. But here I don't have to worry about that. The computer can do it for me. Same format, equals, mode, and then I choose the numbers that I want. And it looks like the most common answer was 10 for Mountain Dew. I can also use this spreadsheet to quickly tell me what the minimum and maximum numbers were. So same format again, equals min, that will tell me what was the lowest rating, and it was 1. And what is the highest one? I probably know it's a 10, but there's still a reason for me doing it this way, because now if I don't want to waste my time on any of the others, I can click and drag that across, and it'll calculate for all of them for me. Same with the min. Whoa, there we go. Oops, it looks like I didn't go quite all the way over. In fact, I can do that with all of these rows. I can highlight both of them, and I can slide over. Whoa, boy, a little far. There we go. And so now I've calculated the average, the median, the mode, the min, and the max for every item. The last three are a little bit more confusing. The first one, we want to count how many 10s there were. I saw that there are some 10s. In fact, in every one there were some 10s, but how many people rated it as a 10? And if I were doing this without a computer, I would simply count cells if they had a 10 in it. So I would count how many cells had a 10. I would count cells if they had 10. And I said the words count if because there's this wonderful function called count if. It will count how many cells that meet a certain criteria. So I'm going to count if. First it asks for a range. That's the first argument in its function. Notice then I need a comma. And now it's asking me for my criteria. And my criteria is I want to count if the cell says 10. Turns out there were 6 people who thought Mountain Dew was a 10. And I can do the same as I've done before and drag that over and find out how many people for each one rated it as a 10. It looks like pizza, 14 people rated it as a 10. It looks like that's our highest. For 1 to 3, essentially I'm looking for how many are 3 and under. Same idea. I would do a count, and this time I would count if the cells in this range, comma. Now my criteria is if they are less than or equal to 3. So I can actually type in less than or equal to 3, but there's one trick here. If I don't have, what I need is some quotations around it because it's part of the syntax. I'm checking if something is less than or equal to 3, so I put the quotations around it, and it looks like 6 people thought Mountain Dew was a 10, 7 people thought it was 3 or below. So we had quite a range there. Nobody thought pizza was only on the 1 to 3. If we look at 7 to 10, it's the same idea as the less than 3. That's going to be fairly easy. We count if, and we can choose our range. Oops, choose our range there. And we'll check if it is greater than or equal to 7. And I can put a parenthesis around that. Remember, I put those in quotations again. Looks like 16 people thought Mountain Dew was between 7 and 10. Let's go all the way over to chicken fingers. 16 people for... Wow. Pizza is really a favorite. 22 people rated it between 7 and 10. Lastly, we need if it's between 4 and 6. Now, I can think of 2 different ways to do this. The first way I could do it would be to... I already know how many are between 1 and 3 and how many are between 7 and 10. So if I know my total number of responses, I can just subtract those. And if I don't want to figure it out, I can make the computer count it for me with that equals count function. So I equals count, and it just counts how many cells were there with responses, minus the 1 to 3s and minus the 7 to 10s. So that'd be one way. The other way is probably a little nicer looking. I can do count ifs. This time I'm counting 2 things. I'm counting if it's greater than or equal to 4 and if it's less than or equal to 6. So I could do my range, comma, my first criteria here is if it is greater than or equal to 4. And then it's going to make me choose my range again. So this is my range again. I'll choose it unless I'm on range 2. And my second criteria is if it is less than or equal to 6. And I get the same answer. I get 2. So we know it worked. Those are the 2 different ways. Doesn't really matter which way you do it. But once you have that, you can click and you can drag over. And now we've got all the data we want. The last thing we want to do is actually create a column graph showing the average satisfaction level for each of these items. So what we need is really the names of the items. So I'm going to choose those. Notice I'm highlighting those. And then I also want to get this average level of satisfaction. In order to select that without deselecting my titles, if I hold down Command while I click and choose these, I notice I am not deselecting my other my column titles that I had chosen. So now I've got those chosen. I can go, as I always do with a graph, I always choose the data I want, and then I go Insert, Chart, and this time I'm going to do a column graph, and that looks pretty nice. I can go through the next steps. Looks like my data is displaying right, so I don't need to change any of those things. My data series is good, but I should put in some chart levels. This is, I don't know, food. I'll give it a title. And my x-axis doesn't really need a label because it's got the titles of the food. And then my y-axis, I will call this satisfaction. And notice that we'll put that title in there. I'll click Finish. I don't really need this legend, so I'm going to click and delete that. And I could change the size of this to make it look a little nicer. I could grab the edge of it, oops, grab it and move it down out of my way. And once I've got this, I think I am done. I think I am happy and content. If you get to this point, you can turn your survey data in on Moodle.